Anywhere we see you come, we all know gladly we dey tell you cabo.
Hey, una cabo, ekusha. How na they do? How na they do? Na piari, sekenu, mbua, bisha. How you na? Foundation. I don't come back today because I have taken an oath to God and country that I'll do everything in my capacity, within my reach, to get my country out of ignorance. I always tell people that the problem of Sierra Leone is not politics. It's a sociological problem. It's the way we think. It's what we understand about who we are. And that's why at this stage, some of us find it necessary and expedient to come in and begin to give this talks, these monologues, you can call it a lecture or teaching or whatever, give it whatever name, it doesn't matter. What matters is, let us begin to know what we need to know. Let us begin to know who we are, why we are, and then we'll be able to map a way forward. This is what we have not done since 1960. This is what we've not done since 1961. This is why up to this time, rather than coming together, we are moving apart. It's a problem we can solve. It's a crisis we can solve. It's a challenge we can overcome. But it all begins with knowledge. There was a time when I was in school, we used to have these literary and debating functions every Friday. And there was a topic, learning is better than silver and gold. There was this argument that learning cannot be better than silver and gold because silver and gold brings comfort. Yes, they do bring comfort. But what if you don't know that gold is gold or silver is silver? Like, for example, before 1930 in Sierra Leone, at Boajibo, there were diamonds, because diamonds were first said to be discovered in Boajibo. There were diamonds flowing on the Sewa River. People will go and take these diamonds, they use it for incantations and call it devil's stone. Then came a Catholic priest who was educated and had the knowledge that this was not just a stone, it was something beyond a stone. He took some of these devil stones, came to Freetown, had them examined, they were sent to the United Kingdom, they were examined and proven to be diamonds. Then an announcement was made that diamonds have been discovered in Sierra Leone. That is what knowledge is. Simply put, in the abundance of water, the full will always be thirsty. And honestly, that's what we have in our country. And that's why some of us have said, instead of wasting time talking gibbish that is called politics, let us begin to educate the people for them to know what they need to know. Knowledge is supreme because God is knowledge. God is absolute knowledge. God is the beginning and end of knowledge. And he made man, as we are told by the Christian scripture, He made man in his image and likeness. That image and likeness is knowledge, the intellect, the soul. The same is said in the Holy Quran using a different language. Why do I like to use religious scriptures for my talks? Because these are the key guides that connect man to the universe. But again, these same books have been grossly misunderstood and misinterpreted. These are the books that were used to keep us in what we are today. The mentality of division. They will come and tell you Islam is better than Christianity. Christianity is better than Islam. Both are the same thing. It's just a difference of tradition and interpretation. That mentality of division, that mentality of superiority and inferiority that has been taught to us is what we are taking to levels that we don't need to. Because someone speaks Timni, the other speaks Mende, the other speaks Susu or Limba does not make them different. It doesn't. It doesn't. Languages grow. They grow out of circumstances and environment and interaction. The English language, as it was before the Englishman started traveling the world, is not the same English language that we have today. Today, we say it's the most spoken language globally. Yes, correct, because they traveled a lot. They influenced a lot of other people. People adopted the language as a language of trade and communication. As a matter of fact, all international institutions involving in global activities use English as a medium of communication because they have realized it's the most widely spoken language. So the Chinese, the French, the Russian pilot, they use English. The Chinese, the French, the Russian sea captain, they use English, etc., etc. Languages grow. Languages didn't come from heaven to earth. They grow out of circumstances, necessity, and even environment. Above all, languages reflect the level of technology or knowledge base of a society. What is not part of a culture does not have a word in the language of that culture. Our languages in Sierra Leone don't have words for motor cars, so they don't have words for bicycle, they don't have words for aeroplanes, etc. If even there's something like a word, it's maybe indicative as an injunction of the sound or whatever. So for somebody speaking Mende or somebody speaking Timini, there is no reason for us to be preaching ethnicity. Let us look at the basis that bring these people together, not what take them apart. Now, let us come to the topic, Sierra Leone. Ethnicity. And let us look at the broader picture of West Africa. Let us look at the closest picture of the coastal area of West Africa, extending from Mauritania right down to La Côte d'Ivoire. That area that is called the Upper Guinea Coast. Because why do we have to use this kind of perception? Because in those days, when there were no fast transportation systems, it took time for people to travel. It took time. My great-grandfather left Freetown for Mecca. It took him 3 years to go through the Sahara onto Egypt by horse and back to Sierra Leone. 3 years in those days. Also, look at the environment we are looking at, the vegetation, the climate, heavy rainfalls, etc., etc. Think back thousands of years, and you'll see that these were factors of limitation, especially for movement. So therefore, let us look at West Africa as we know it. Then let's come very close to this area, starting from Mauritania down to the Côte d'Ivoire, which is called the Upper Guinea Coast. The Lower Guinea Coast moves between Ghana and Cameroon. Let us look at how people have been living and interacting within that axis. Then we'll begin to see that these people, though today we speak different languages, they had coexisted for hundreds, if not thousands of years together. And because of this coexistence, there is so much commonality amongst them than what divides them. In Sierra Leone, let us take certain indicators of commonality. Let us look at the surnames. Kamara, Koroma, Dumbuya, Mansare, Fofana, Sise, Tarawali, Sila, Conte, Bangura. Do we think these names exist only in Sierra Leone? No. These are names you'll find almost all through the Upper Guinea Coast. Maybe not in Liberia, not in La Côte d'Ivoire, but the northern half of the Upper Guinea Coast and stretching into inland West Africa, maybe as far as Mali or even Burkina Faso, you'll find these names. They may not be spelled the same way as we spell them in Sierra Leone, because we went through a period of colonialism wherein certain people were anglicized, the others were made into French. But by and large, if we do our research properly, we will see surnames are common between Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, and Gambia. Yes. So it begs certain questions. Who went where and at what time? The problem we have with our anthropology and history is that there had been several narratives, each coming from maybe a perspective that did not take consideration of the people for whom this narrative was built. Maybe it took consideration of the interpretations and understanding of the narrator. And that is why when you are looking or reading anything connected with the history and anthropology of West Africa, you have to read beyond and interpret beyond what is written on the book or on the paper. It's just like reading through religious scriptures. The meaning is always deeper than what you read. You have to have the ability to do open, unbiased interpretations, or what is called hermeneutics, for you to be able to understand the meaning. This talk today is just the beginning of a series I'll be preparing. I am not claiming to know it all, but I have done a 5-year research, and I'm continuing with this research, which is costing me time and maybe money, because most of what we need to know about ourselves is there, but it's locked up in some archives or whatever that you have to pay for before you can have access to it. Originally, I wanted to do this to write a book, but I decided on not writing a book. Maybe I'll do it at some later date. I decided that instead of writing a book, it's better I think about making short documentaries. Well, of course, these talks, the podcasts, and other things that will follow will be part of the build-up. Why this build-up? Because for a country to develop, the majority of the people must know what needs to be known. It doesn't mean they will know what that man who has a PhD knows. Going to university, specializing in something is different from the education that a society needs for it to function as a cohesive and united social unit. That education is what we don't have. And whatever attempt we have made to provide it was wrong, let me say it now. What we call civic education is wrong for us. It teaches us nothing about who we are. It teaches us everything we need to know about how we are colonized and for us to stay colonized mentally. In 1980, when Bob Marley went to grace the independence occasion of Zimbabwe and sang redemption song at the stadium in Snakes Park, Bulawayo Road, we did not understand what he meant. We did not. We sang, we were happy singing Bob Marley. Up till now, people sing Bob Marley. But how many of us do understand the philosophical message behind what that gentleman was singing? As a matter of fact, he was dismissed at that time. That man is a ganja smoker. Yeah, he was. But what do we have with ganja today? It's in New York Stock Exchange. It is. So, who is fooling who? You see, one thing and one reason why I'm taking my time to do these talks is that over my lifetime talking to Sierra Leoneans, one thing I find very unpleasant is that We are so colonized that what we think we believe in, if somebody comes with an idea contrary to it, we dismiss that person. Colonial mentality. Listen to what the master says. That's the only thing right. As a small boy, I used to hear people say, the pastors will say, do as I would what? Do as I say, don't do as I do. That was mental colonialism. And we still have it in our society. As a matter of fact, we use it now in politics to colonize people mentally, to make them into fundamentalists and sycophants. This talk, or these talks that I'll be making, has as a goal how to decolonize the minds of people. Because there is a saying, if you don't know your culture, if you don't know your history, you don't know who you are. It doesn't matter what achievement you make in this world, you are lost. Me talking to you, I am not a historian. Why do I take up this? Because at some point in time, I sat down and asked myself a number of questions I needed answers to. In the process, I decided, let me find out. Let me find out who really I am, who my people are, why, for God's sake, certain people will want to spite us. Because there was a time Fulanis were targets in Sierra Leone. That was what brought the awareness that you need to find out. Then I started building interest. As a matter of fact, I did history as a subject, but the last time I did history was in the third form at the grammar school. That was many, many moons ago, because it was in the early 1970s. That was the last time. I was taught by the recent former principal, Mr. Akiwande Lasita. Since then, I never took history because I'm not a historian. But necessity can always be the mother to foster and initiate invention. That is why I have taken up this task that I should find out what we need to find out about who we are and make it known to the people of Sierra Leone. Because this issue of using tribe, region in politics, in our daily lives, is getting out of hand. It is going too far. Let us begin to look at who we are and find out why we are as we are. I have just mentioned surnames. For God's sake, the man who is a Kamara, born in Pujeong, is he different from the same Kamara born in Cambia, in Bombali, in Tonkolili, or even in Kono? In Kono, we have a chiefdom called Kamara. Have we ever sat down to find out why that chiefdom carries that name? Do we know who Kamaras are? Where they came from? Why they came to Sierra Leone? As a matter of fact, Kamara is the most popular. It's the most common surname in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and some parts of Liberia. Have we ever sat down to find out why? What is the relationship between the Kamaras, the Koromas, and the Mansaris? Have we ever sat down to find out? Then look at the place names in Sierra Leone. How many of us are aware that in every part of Sierra Leone, or if we take it in the administrative sense, in every district in Sierra Leone, there is a place called Sumbuya. 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 In Guinea, they have music singing about Sumbuya. Don't we see the connections? Look at the whole of Sierra Leone. Look at Liberia. And look at maybe some parts of La Côte d'Ivoire. There are areas you'll find a fraternity which has been wrongly called secret society, but which role in the past was more like a training school for boys to grow into men, called the Power Society. One thing common about that society is that wherever there is Power Society, there is a place called Yoni. Yoni. You go to Bon, you meet Yoni. You go to Pujao, you meet. You come to Tonkolili, you meet it. Bombali, you meet it. Koinadugu, you meet it. Kailaung, etc. Can't we see the commonality? Can't we? Again, let us look at place names. Bendembu, Bendembu. Where is the difference? Is the first letter, the first sound. Ben, Ben. How come one place is called Bendembu, the other is called Bendembu? Have we ever tried to find out? Look at the names we find across northern Sierra Leone of certain places, and look at the same names we find in the east of Sierra Leone. There is a Koya chiefdom in Port Loko district. There is a Koya chiefdom in Kenema district. In Port Loko district, the headquarters is supposed to be Songo, but it has now moved to Masheka. In Kenema district, the headquarters is Bauma. Can't we see the relationship? Where is this education we claim to have, preaching division? Where is it? In Kenema, we talk about Nongowa. Nongowa. In Bombali, we have a chiefdom called Bendembu Nongowao. Can't we see? What education do we have if we cannot realize these simple facts of similarities? This is just an introduction of a number of talks I'll be giving, and I'll be providing references because unfortunately, I cannot use the materials on the stock. There will be copyright infringements. But from now on, whenever I'm giving talks, I'll give you references. Go and find out if you are interested. Go and read them if you are interested. Because it's high time we begin to know and find out why we have 3 key languages that are spoken all over Sierra Leone. Then we have 18 or 19 other languages. Some of them have almost disappeared because the speakers, the original speakers, have now adopted another language. Like, for example, in Koinadugu, there was a small group called Sonenke. That linguistic group is gradually disappearing. They are becoming Jalunka. In Pujang, we had Vice and Galines, who have also almost disappeared. They are now speaking Mendi. Also, we are going to discuss the fact that Mendi did not come to Sierra Leone. The language Mendi did not come to Sierra Leone. It developed within Sierra Leone and Liberia after the people who came had settled down in the middle and early and middle 18th century. Mendi did not come from any other part of West Africa into Sierra Leone. It grew in Sierra Leone into a language. Creole, as we speak it now, did not come to Sierra Leone. It grew into language spoken by the people who were resettled and the captives who were brought in and who settled down and mixed with them in Freetown. Timini did not come to Sierra Leone. It grew over time. Yes, I am going to give you evidences to prove all of this. Shabro or Bolom did not come to Sierra Leone. It grew over time. As a matter of fact, there is a strong connection between Shabro or Bolom and Kisi. I'll prove that. These are the nitty-gritties that we need to pay attention to. Then it will tell us who we are, because there are 3 bloodlines in Sierra Leone. If we know the connection between these bloodlines, then we'll know that we are one people. The one people. That slogan of SLPP, one people. Yes, we are one people. Speaking different languages. But we have been so engrossed in ignorance that today we think and act as several people. In Sierra Leone, Guinea, Liberia, we are one people. As a matter of fact, these 3 countries that today form the greater part of the Mano River Union, we at one point in time a kingdom that rose up after the fall of Mali and after the fall of a northern kingdom that was between Mauritania and Guinea-Bissau that was called Kebu. All of these will be made open and with references for people to find out. We need to find out who we are. Then we'll be able to live in peace. Be able to live in peace. We'll be able to think together. If we cannot think together, if we cannot all participate in the affairs of building up a country, then nothing will work. Nothing. There is a difference between having access to money, cash, and living affluent life and creating wealth. Wealth creation is what we have failed to do. And that's why we have become a dependent people. It's not only in Sierra Leone, it's all through Africa. Our heterogeneity, too many different linguistic groups, has held us apart such that we cannot work together. They say in English, many hands make light work. Many brains make the master brain. And one thing we have to begin to understand, there are no superior brains. There are no superior brains. That mentality of superiority and inferiority is one thing we have to get rid of. And we would only get rid of it if we know our history, if we know how connected we are. There is nowhere on earth where you'll find a superior brain. There are only differences in talent. Every human being, whether Western educated or not, has a talent. That talent can be converted into a good or service depending on a number of factors, primary of which is how collective the people can think. I can have an idea. Alone, I have limits to the extent to which I'll develop that idea. But if there are other people I can sit and discuss with, we brainstorm on that idea. With time, we'll begin to see the emergence of ideas within the same radius of that original idea that will make the idea grow into some innovation. What we call today technology is not a one-man business. As a matter of fact, one thing that technology has done to the world is it has brought the human race closer in terms of cooperation and collaboration. We will take our iPhone, we download apps, etc., etc. These applications that we download and use, they are not made by one man. It's not possible. It's not possible. Technology is so vast that everybody has a role to play. Like William Shakespeare said in his book, As You Like It, all the world's a stage, and every man and woman merely players. If we understand that, then we would understand what it means for us to work collectively, think collectively, act collectively. And that is what makes preaching ethnocentrism and regionalism ignorance by excellence. Imagine yourself. Let us imagine that we have one ethnic group and one region that has everything the others don't have. What do we expect to happen? You think the others will sit by and say, no, let us allow them, they have the God-given right? No. No. Gone are the days when we'll preach superiority. I say, this is not Creole, this is not Mende, this is not Timini. No. That's the highest level of unethical relations. The religious books we read has nothing there to tell us that one person is superior over the other. Even with the stories about the Israelites or whatever in the Bible, or the different attempts to spread Islam as it was, there is nothing in those books that will tell you the people who started this movement are better than the others that they were seeking to overcome. There's nothing in it. It was all about survival. Yes, agreed. And looking at the time in those days, yes, there was not a global perception. There was not a global connectivity that will make using brute force unnecessary in today's world, and especially with the emergence of artificial intelligence. The use of brute force is very, very much unnecessary. It's unnecessary. So, preaching division of identities, if I would put it in that very decent way, preaching division of identities, which everybody has a right to. Everybody has a right to identity. As a matter of fact, it is our right to identity that is the reason why we have names. If I call myself Boy, when you ask me, say, what is your name? I say, I am Boy. I am the identity of my existence. I am. If you ask me, what tribe are you from? I may decide not to answer you. Or if I'm going to answer, I'll tell you, I speak. Or I am from this group. Because the identity we call tribe, the identity we call ethnic group, is a colonizing identity. Up to 1970, was it? Yeah, if I could remember properly. We used to have offices in Sierra Leone where young people leaving school will go and register. They'll call them labor bureau. You register, you give your details, your address. And there was a form, a place on the form where your tribe was included. Why did we need to identify our tribe? Why? Anyway, by 1970, I think it was removed, and those occupation or employment bureau did exist up to mid-1970s or somewhere around, and gradually they started collapsing because we decided to go backwards as we are doing still today. The essence of bringing all those things in is that if we had been in that situation where we would classify ourselves in a divisive way, and it has become a culture that is even today affecting us worse than it used to be at that time, then I think it's high time we begin to look at how to reverse. Because this culture of division should not continue. It should not. Sierra Leone has everything that we need, but because we are not united, we think as clans, as tribes, as regions, as separate families. That's why we cannot harness the potentials of that country. We don't have that many hands to make the work light. We don't have that many brains to think and make innovation easy. It's all about me, I, and mine. That's what we need to put away. The ego was not made to be misused. It was made to be used for innovative purposes. Please let us get that clear. Your ego should drive you to create something. It should not drive you to use impunity over others. It's wrong in human, because every man, every living thing, everything in existence is equal in this universe. Mankind is equal in the sight of God. Yes. But the Muslims, they came very close to that in a direct way, that when God created man from clay by breathing part of himself into the clay, and the clay became alive, he commanded the angels to bow down and worship what he has created. And then one of them said he will not, because God has created something that will cause trouble and destroy the world. They say that was Satan who said that. It's a story we cannot verify or deny. But it came very close to the fact that we are all equal in creation, and each man in the generic, man, woman, child, has a talent, because the power of intellect is within. Each man has a talent, and that talent is the power of God in us. It's the tapping of these talents, the harnessing of these talents that we are failing to do in Africa. That's why we have always been in poverty. We've always been fighting each other, killing each other. Why do we have to, when we're all brothers and sisters? A Kamara in Pujang, because he says Boa Bishia, we look at the Kamara in Pujang and say Mpiari Seke as the enemy. Why? Tell me. What logical explanation can we give to these ways of thinking? A Kanu in Putloko may want to look at a Mansari in Kailang or wherever as a different person, the enemy. Why? Have we ever found out the relationship between the Kanu, the Mansari, or the Traore and the Tarawali, or the Banguras and the Silas? Do we even know that in some parts of Guinea, there are certain names we use in Sierra Leone as surnames that are first names? Like Bangali. Bangali is a first name. You hear people say Bangali Sila, Bangali Konde. Where is this education that we claim? Where is this national unity that we are preaching? Coming with theories from lands that don't fit into our land. It's high time we begin to do rethink. We need to. We need to. Otherwise, we'll be putting our posterity at risk. For us to be able to do a rethink, we need to dwell into our culture, our anthropology, to find out what needs to be found out. It's all there for us to find out. Let me tell you, it's all there. As a matter of fact, whatever history we need to know has been written down. It's either in Arabic, locked in some archive or museum or whatever, or in English or French, also locked in some archive or museum. There are people who had been recording our history since the beginning in Arabic and in other languages. The Manding, they had their language called Nko. They recorded a lot of facts. At the time when I was in Guinea-Conakry, they had an office at Sangoya. There were Guineans researching into the Nko. They found out a lot of things. The records are there for us to find out. The records are there for us to know that the people we call Creole are people who are our brothers and sisters. The records are there for us to find out that the people who call Timini are from the Baga group. The records are there for us to find out that the people who call Mendi are a mixture of Galines, Manding, and other languages. We will do our best in the coming days to make some of these things clear. Today, I have purposely used the English language in this introduction because these are matters, I believe, that should sync with the intellectual class, and at the same time, they should go outside our linguistic group in Sierra Leone for others to hear. Maybe this will instigate other researches in West Africa, in other parts of Africa, that may later be corroborated. Because there is a very strong link between us in Africa. How we came about this dispersal, how we came about having over 2,000 linguistic groups in Africa, of which you have half of that number in West Africa. These are things we'll take time to find out. Our anthropology and our history is like a puzzle. It's not easy to fit, but we'll do our best to begin to fit it. And it's not about me fitting all of it. It's about me instigating others to do researches. Find out. The more the merrier. If you have anything you believe is worthwhile of discussion, give me a call. Send a message to me. I'll gladly bring you on board so we come and have a discourse so that we'll make knowledge the foundation with which we are going to build, identify, harness, and build our empires of silver and gold. It's time begin to go down that path, because that's the only way we are going to emancipate from mental slavery. I thank you for listening to me. I'll take my leave today. Thank you, and I'll come again on Friday. I do it twice a week, talking what I have to. And I believe it's going to benefit a lot of people. Have a nice week, people. Have a nice week. Let me leave you with Cabo.
tell you cabo. Cabo, 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 cabo. Anytime we see you, where you go you can, we must tell you cabo. For we make you give we now, because till the morning we dey ask you mama, wetin you bring for we, make you give we now, because till the morning we, but where you left here, where you go mama, angry dey catch we no get nothing for you, now that make, where we see you come, we all don't glad we dey tell you come.